I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go from Kansas. Mark Nelson and Paulo Anacito have the front row. Ryan Warp and Kyle Holden on the second row. Richie Joplin and Zach Henson have the third row. Caleb Bass and Austin Ruskoff on the fourth row. Austin Abel and Stephen Gibson round out the top 10. Blake Veekin starting in 11th next to Ray Hillhouse in 12th. Mark Dantuma, Gerald Poole, and Donald Double D Durant round out the field here at Kansas. As we mentioned, CJ Jeffries unable to make it this week and next. We'll see him back after the Easter break. He said he is not afraid of Drifty Richie, but Richie said just bring it, he'll make him scared. That could be entertaining. All the drivers stacking up on the grid. Looks like everybody is out on track. Pace car about to start rolling, and here we go. Mark Dantuma and Double D a little slow getting out on track, but they get out there. All the drivers stacking up on the backstretch. We are under the lights, which gives the drivers a little bit cooler track. 74-degree air temp and 74-degree track temperature should give them a little bit more grip and a little bit more speed. And here we go. Pace car dives to pit road. Green flag is in the air there, down and away at Kansas. Off into turn one, Nelson pulls a little bit ahead. Mark comes up the track and Paulo gets a little bit of the wall. Ryan Warp slides by into second on the bottom. Kyle Holden in fourth. Look at this. Austin Habel already up 3 spots into sixth. Austin Ruskoff did not have a good feeling about tonight. As he gets the wall in 1 and 2, he has slipped back now to 9th. Hillhouse already up 2 spots into 10th. CJ, buddy, we're glad to have you in the group. As Paulo Anacito has just taken the lead and set the fastest lap. Despite that lap 1 incident coming out of turn 2, it has not slowed him down a bit. Mark Nelson now in second, Kyle Holden in third. Kansas, you can run multiple lines. You'll see a lot of guys run up on the high line right by the wall. It isn't a high line dominant track, but that high line does tend to be one of the faster ways around this track. As we've got 3 wide race, and out of 4, they settle back in line. And hopefully Kevin Reed will be joining us again soon. Richie Joplin lost a lot of ground. He started in 5th, drifted back into 10th place, but just set the fastest lap. But he has got a lot of ground to make up for tonight. However, the competition caution at lap 40 will help for some of these guys who have lost ground in the early going here. Blake Beacon has drifted back to 12, but he's battling now with Hillhouse, and he'll take it. Beacon back to 11. Mark D'Antuma slipped back to 4. Caution! Caution is out already. And it looks like Richie may have been involved. Austin Ruskoff also involved. Let's see if we can see what happened. There's Ruskoff back behind. Oh, Habel goes around across Richie's nose and sends Richie up into Austin. Take another look at this from the blimp. There's Habel. Comes down as Richie comes up. They meet in the middle. Habel spins, sends him up into Richie, and man, Ruskoff got the worst of that one. Kevin, I hope it's soon, buddy. I miss seeing you on track. Several drivers headed in. Kyle Holden, Caleb Bass, Austin Habel, Mark D'Antuma, Richie Joplin all on their way in. Ruskoff, after being towed in, still sits on pit road. Don't forget, we do have a full night of racing right after this race. SMRX Series back on track at Darlington, and it is a throwback race, so we'll be looking at all those awesome throwback paint schemes. I love a good throwback race. They are a lot of fun, and we get to see some old school paints return to the track. The fun thing about a good throwback race is seeing the paints that go back to Kevin Reed and I's generation. Back in the 80s and 90s when NASCAR was awesome. Lights are out on the pace car. Everybody stacks back up. Paulo Anacito and Ryan Warp on the front row. Mark Nelson and Stephen Gibson on the second row. Zach Henson, Blake Beacon on the third. Ray Hillhouse, Donald Durant, Gerald Poole, and Kyle Holden round out the top 10. Austin Ruskov still sits on pit road as they get ready to go back to green. Pace car is in. Green flag back in the air. Paulo gets a good jump on the field. Mark Nelson in second. Stephen Gibson on the high side trying to take it. Gibson got a little squirrely, kept his foot in it, and has a run off into turn 3. Stephen Gibson now has second. Nelson drops to the apron. Ryan Warp trying to get that run up on the high side. Going to the apron on the front stretch is okay per the rules. And it is a bit faster, but coming down off the banking onto the... Oh, looks like Warp may have gotten the wall. As I was saying, coming off the banking down onto that flat apron and coming back up does wear your tires a bit more. Three wide, back behind. Double D is drifting back. He is stuck in the middle, 3 wide again briefly. Now back to 2 wide. Richie Joplin pulls ahead, as does Zach Henson. And it does look like Austin Ruskov did not have his fast repair checked when he towed it in. The crew is throwing duct tape on all over the car. He'll be back out in a few laps and limp it around to the comp caution on lap 40. Paulo Anacito has about a 1/6 of a second lead on Gibson. Mark Nelson still holding on to third. CJ Jeffries was in the truck race last night, said that Highline was the place to be, the fastest way around. You could run the bottom for 5 to 8 laps, then the car is going to get tight. Ray Hillhouse making some moves as well. He is now 4 spots into 8th. We saw Kyle Holden in on that last pit stop. No tires, it was fuel only, a bit of a strange strategy. It put him back toward the back, but he is already back up to 8th. Stephen Gibson in second, about 7/10 behind Paulo at the moment. Mark Nelson in third, but Ryan Warp is starting to look underneath. And don't look now, folks. Drifty Richie is back up into 5th. Austin Ruskov is on his way back out. But man, what a setback Austin has had. Richie closing the gap on Ryan Warp at the moment. Zach Henson, Blake Veekin right behind. Veekin now up 4 spots. Beacon looks underneath Henson, as it looks like, I think Richie may have kissed the wall a moment ago. Kevin, I have to concur, Richie does hate every track, and he made us aware of it before the race. But he likes it enough to be back up into 5th, looking underneath Mark Nelson, now that Ryan Warp has jumped up to 3rd. Paulo Aniceto out front, 7/10 of a second. He is inching away from Stephen Gibson. Yeah, Kevin, I've heard those same complaints from Richie multiple times. Speaking of Richie, he is right on Mark's back bumper. We mentioned it pre-race, Mark Nelson winning the BRR Championship the last season of 2025. He also in the same week won the Home Motorsports Championship. And that Home Motorsports Championship was a very close battle with Richie Joplin. As Richie looks underneath, Mark tries to fight back on the high side. Ryan Warp just ahead. Ryan Warp goes high up the track. They may be looking 3 wide here. Looks like one of our camera guys put the camera in the wrong place. And Blakey Pooh Snickerdoodle Boo Boo now underneath. Blake now up into 5th. Zach Henson now in the mix. Blake started back in 11th, lost some ground early, dropped back as far as 13th. But Blake is on fire later in the run. A little bit of a close call there with Ryan Warp as Blake tries to clear both drivers up on the high side. Whoa! Looks like Richie may have given Ryan a little bit of a bump draft out at 2. Richie goes down. They're going to be in the middle. They may end up 4 wide, down to 3 wide. Mark Nelson shoots to the apron. Boy, that lap got a bit spicy. Now it's a 6-car battle for 3rd on back. As Blake Beacon has now snuck his way up into 3rd. And caution is back out. Only our 2nd caution of the night. Hey, good evening, Quack. Good evening, Gene. How are you guys? See if we can see what happened. Looks like Caleb Bass may have been involved. Let's take a quick look. coming out of turn 2, he is slow down the backstretch. It looks like something had happened before. That right front is locked up. Coming out of turn 4, there is Bass. Oh! He came down, almost got into Gerald. Yanked it a little too hard to the right. Ends up in that outside wall. He did get it to pit road. But ouch. My pleasure, Gene. Hope you guys are doing great tonight. Kyle Holden, Richie Joplin, Zach Henson, Mark Nelson, Ryan Warp, Blake Veek, and Paul. Looks like everybody came in except for Hillhouse and Durant's. Now Durant's is coming in. And weirdly, some of the field took 4 tires, some took 2, and some took no tires. Gene, Quack, how are you guys doing tonight? Austin Ruskoff is back on pit road. He is getting that repair after getting one of his laps back. Double D has also finished his stop and coming out. And Austin Habel towed the pit road under caution. Try and figure out what happened with Austin here in a moment. But let's get a little bit loud when the green flag drops. I'm going to shut up and let you guys crank it up. Listen to all that power. And here we go. Green flag is in the air. Crank it up, y'all. Man, it is a dog fight mid-pack. Look at this. Steven Gibson in 3rd, Mark Nelson in 4th, Dan Tuma in 5th. Paulo Anacito in the mix as well. And let's take a quick look and see if we can see what happened to Austin Habel. Wow, they're 3 wide coming out of 4. Well, there he is coming into pit road. The car just started blinking. Not sure what happened, but he eventually towed it in. Three wide for the lead. Hillhouse had it. Now Steven Gibson on the bottom. Kyle Holden up top. We're just about 5.5 laps from the caution. Man, what a fight these guys are having for positions up at the front. Mark Dantuma, who did not qualify, up 7 spots into 6, battling with Mark Nelson. Caleb Bass, Blake Veakin, and Ryan Ward. Every position right now is battling. Except for Stephen Gibson, who's trying to get away from Henson on his bumper. Ray Hillhouse, who stayed out under the caution and took the lead, is getting beat by a bunch of cars on fresh tires. Yep. Hillhouse still holds on to 5th for the moment. But Blake goes by him. Wow. A little bit of a close call there. 3 wide coming out of 4. Hey, thank you, Quack. Really appreciate it, buddy. There is fighting all over the track right now. 2 laps away from the caution. Stephen Gibson still holds the lead, followed by Henson, Richie Joplin, Blake Veakin, and Caleb Bass. Caleb started back in 7th, quickly slipped outside of the top 10, but has made his way back up here. Ray Hillhouse on the older tires. Remember, he did not come to pit road. Has not been on pit road yet tonight. At the moment, Hillhouse is about a second a lap slower. Double D appears to have had a problem a moment ago. He is on pit road. And the comp caution is out. We're going to take a quick look and see if something happened to Double D as he came to pit road. There he is down the apron through 3 and 4. Gets slowed down. Does not look like he had any kind of problems getting to pit road. May have just been a bit slow on it. Quack, that's actually her tablet sitting next to me. I'm trying to get set up to do admin controls to make my life a little easier. Mainly so that she can do admin controls when I'm streaming in the future. Blake Veakin and Ryan Warp stayed out. She's doing great, buddy. Thank you. She will be, the Unicorn will be live trucking tomorrow afternoon. Anybody on American Truck Sim is welcome to join the convoy and the chaos and shenanigans. Most of the field did come to pit road, but Blake Viken and Ryan Warp stayed out. We saw Double D and Ray Hillhouse stayed out for a bit. Their lap times were about a second a lap slower than the guys who had just gotten fresh tires. You have to wonder, how are Blake Viken and Ryan Warp gonna do here tonight? All right, lights are out on the pace car. Pit stop's complete. Everybody stacks back up. Blake Viken, Ryan Warp on the front row. Steven Gibson, Zach Henson on the second. Caleb Bass and Richie Joplin on the third row. Kyle Holden, Mark Nelson on the fourth. Ray Hillhouse and Austin Abel round out the top 10. Mark Dantuma, Paulo Anacito, and Gerald Poole round out the lead lap cars. Double D and Austin Ruskoff both several laps down. And here we go, green flag back in the air at Kansas. Blakey Pooh sneaks away quickly. Steven Gibson right behind. Warp has slipped back into third. And mid-pack, once again, the fighting has begun as Steven Gibson battles for the lead. Steven Gibson won last week at Talladega. Can he go 2 in a row here tonight? Wow, he really had to back out of it. Had a big run coming through 1 and 2, but drifted up the track a little too fast. Almost got into Blake. Here comes Ryan Warp in third. Zach Henson in fourth. Caleb Bass back on the move, up into seventh, battling with Kyle Holden on the bottom. Holden, despite not running a full season, already has 4 wins. Brandon Doobie cheering on anybody but Richie Joplin. As Blake up front battles with Gibson and Warp. Whoa, there was some contact there. It is a dogfight up front for the lead. Blake Viken, Steven Gibson, Ryan Warp all in it. Oh, Blake gets into the wall. And that cost him enough momentum. Gibson may take it here. And Steven Gibson reclaims the lead out of 4. Blake's going to look back to the bottom and may take it. And Blake Viken back to the lead as Ryan Warp and Zach Henson looked like they had a little bit of contact out of 2. And Warp is in the wall. Richie Joplin and Kyle Holden slip by. Warp now back to 6th. Paulo Aniceto started on the front row in second, has now drifted back to 7th, but he's got to run on Warp. Back behind, Mark D'Antuma now up into 8th place, up 5 spots. D'Antuma also sporting a new paint scheme here tonight. And let's see if we can take a ride on board with D'Antuma. You can see all the different lines these guys are running here tonight. Oh, D'Antuma got a bump. I'm not sure if he got a bump or got loose. Coming out of turn 4, down the front straightaway. This race definitely been wild and eventful. And if you think this race is exciting, wait till Darlington later tonight. Blake Viken still on old tires, but still holds on to the lead for the moment. But Kyle Holden on the attack on the bottom. Holden did get fresh tires on that last stop. Back off into 1 and 2, and it does look like Holden may clear into the lead. And don't look now, Richie Joplin battles Blake Viken for second. Those older tires on Blake's car starting to show. Ryan Warp also on old tires. He is drifting back quickly. Here comes D'Antuma and Nelson Mark on the move. Kevin did say it looked a little wreck a few moments ago. It's looking that way again. Zach Henson probably in the best position, the best seat in the house right now, watching these 4 cars battle just ahead. Mark Nelson takes 5th, up on the high side. Blake Viken now back to 4th as Paulo Aniceto takes 3rd and closes the gap on Kyle Holden and our new leader, Richie Joplin. The drivers did say between 48 and 52 laps on a tank of fuel here tonight. Everybody was in on lap 41 except for Blake and Ryan Warp. Those two will need to come in the next 10 to 15 laps. The rest of the field about 13 laps later. It'll definitely be interesting to see which strategy pays off here as both Blake and Warp continue to lose ground. Richie Joplin, Kyle Holden, and Paulo Anacito, the top three, have now put some space between them and fourth place, Mark Nelson. Mark Dantuma holds on to fifth, but Gerald Poole is on the move. Thanos definitely knows how to get it done on old tires at tracks like these. And Austin Habel back behind. You see him blinking out. Austin's blinking problem seems to be getting worse, not better. The top three all still fairly close together. That gap back to fourth place, Mark Nelson, continues to grow. It is now 1.1 seconds. Mark Dantuma in fifth. Gerald Poole in sixth, closing in on Dantuma at the moment. Blake Viken continuing to lose ground back in seventh. A caution right now would be a huge, huge help for Blake. Ryan Warp also came in a lap 28. He is slipping back down to 12th as Hillhouse comes by. And Blake Viken is on pit road. Now the question is, how much longer does Ryan Warp stay out? How much further can he stretch it? By our math, looks like about another 6 to 7 laps if he decides to stay out, and it does look like he is going to stay out for a little longer. Richie Joplin continues to lead. Kyle Holden in second. Paulo Anacito in third. Mark Nelson in fourth. Mark Dantuma in fifth. Gerald Poole in sixth. Continues to get closer to Dantuma. Last time by, the only cars faster than Gerald Poole were the top two, Richie Joplin and Kyle Holden. Gerald has definitely found something out here tonight as Viken is back on track. Blake will have the fastest car on track for several laps, but he is a lap down at the moment. Depending on how the strategy plays out here, I'm trying to do the math on this. I'm not sure he can go the distance. According to my math, he ends up being a couple of laps short on fuel. He is going to need a caution to give him some help. Richie Joplin at the moment does not need any help. He has opened up an even bigger gap on Paulo, who is now taking second. Mark Nelson looks underneath Holden for third. It is definitely a rare sight to see Holden going backwards. Mark Antuma in fifth. Gerald Poole in sixth has lost some ground. One driver that hasn't lost ground is Ray Hillhouse, who is now up 5 spots into seventh. Richie's lead now just at 1 second as a 3-car battle for second place. Mark Nelson down to the apron. Paulo on the high side. Holden right behind. Oh, Paulo is in the wall. Mark Nelson now takes second place. Kyle Holden battling with Paulo for third. It is bringing Dan Tuma closer. Gerald Poole back in sixth, now losing a little bit of ground here. Ray Hillhouse 2.4 seconds back in seventh. He is closing in. Ryan Warp is coming in. Caleb Bass has also come to pit road. This is a bit early for Caleb, but they can go the distance from here on fuel. Mark Nelson now in second, half a second behind Richie. Kyle Holden in third, Paulo Anacito in fourth, Mark Antuma in fifth. Gerald Poole in sixth, Ray Hillhouse in seventh, now just 1.8 seconds behind Gerald, and he is closing in rapidly. Zach Henson holding on to 8th. Austin Hable in 9th. Stephen Gibson in 10th. And let's ride along with Blake Veakin. And you see just how much of a difference as Stephen Gibson has had a problem. We'll see how much of a difference Blake has through the turn. You see how quickly he is closing on the cars ahead as they come down the back straightaway toward 3 and 4. Hable still blinking. And you see how quickly he gets a whoa. Henson to pit road. Hable also in. Boy, Hable's pit road entry had to be sketchy. Let's take a look at Stephen Gibson's incident and Austin Hable's pit road entry. There's Stephen. Looks like he was headed toward pit road, but just went a little too far. And Austin Hable setting up for pit road. Wow, that was a close call. So pit stops are underway as Mark Nelson has the lead. with Kyle Holden right on his bumper. Folks, don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and especially our YouTube channel. We will have a lot of YouTube shorts coming out this week. A lot of racing shorts, but we've got some trucking shorts and some shorts from Wreckfest coming out tonight and tomorrow, and a whole lot more of those coming this week. Austin Abel and Zach Henson are on their way back out. Steven Gibson has called it a night. Gerald Poole now heads to pit road, as Kyle Holden is battling for the lead. Mark able to hold him off for a moment. Richie Joplin in third is losing some ground behind. Paulo Anacito currently in fourth. Mark Dantuma in fifth. Ray Hillhouse back in sixth. Blakey Boo now in seventh. Zach Henson back on track in eighth. Gerald Poole coming off pit road. Looks like he will take 10th as Habel takes 9th. Mark Dantuma and Ray Hillhouse both in. Kyle Holden still trying to take the lead. Mark Nelson will not make it easy. But it looks like Holden will clear, slide up, and take the lead. Mark Dantuma already on his way out. Hillhouse on the way out as well. Final stops are underway. Only the top 4 have not come in yet. Kyle Holden, Mark Nelson, Richie Joplin, and Paulo Anacito. If I'm Paulo Anacito, I'm coming to pit road right now before the other 3 come in, taking advantage of those fresh tires and seeing if I can make up some ground. Blake Beacon, one of the first ones in, is now back up into 5th place. The question is, will his strategy pay off, and does he have the fuel to go the distance? He is still scored 1 lap down from Paulo at the moment, due to the fact that the top 4 have not been in yet. Caleb Bass has had a problem back behind. He tows it to pit road. We will not see a caution. See if we can see what happened with Caleb here. Looks like he was right up on the wall, but that time he was okay. Back across the start-finish line, Caleb heads back into 1 and 2. this one more time. And let's just back this up air. All right, there's Caleb Bass coming through 1 and 2. Oh, a hard hit right front into the outside wall. Coming out of turn 2, and he took it in. Likely took significant damage. He toes it in. We may not see him back out tonight. Now it does appear Caleb Bass is retired. And it looks like Double D had a problem as well a moment ago. Oh, there's Durant's trying to get to pit road. And just a little too hot coming in. Goes through the grass, but does get it to pit road. But, man, he is losing a lot of time and may have gotten a penalty as well. Mark Nelson, Richie Joplin, Paulo Inesito, all three on pit road. Paulo on his way back out. And the leader is in. Kyle Holden in for his final stop. Blake Viken now up into second place. And he has got to be open for a caution quickly. He wouldn't trap very many cars a lap down, but that'd give him the opportunity to come in, get a fresh set of tires, and top off his fuel, which is questionable at this point. Zach Henson now to second. Mark Dantuma in third, Kyle Holden in fourth. Austin Abel currently in fifth. It does appear Austin may have got the blinking problem under control. And Mark Dantuma has just taken second place from Henson. Dantuma has the same problem that our current leader Blake Viken does. Viken was on pit road way earlier than everybody else at lap 64. Dantuma came in on lap 81. Whereas the leaders all came in around lap 90 and have way fresher tires. Paulo Inesito came off pit road in 8th place. Blake Viken is in. This will be his final stop. That will give the lead to Dantuma for the first time tonight. "25 laps to go here at Kansas." Mark Dantuma has a 1.5 second lead over Zach Henson. And Dantuma has fresher tires than Henson, but back in third is Kyle Holden. Mark Nelson back in fourth. Richie Joplin and Paulo Anacito back in sixth and seventh. They all have fresh tires. And Beacon has had a problem on pit road. He is now on his way out, but it looks like he got a speeding penalty on pit road entry. Man, what a setback for Blake. And folks, don't forget, immediately after this race, we'll go to Darlington for the SMRX Series. The biggest fields we'll see all week. We've seen consistently 36 car fields all season long. Kyle Holden now less than 2 seconds behind Henson. Dan Tuma 2.5 seconds ahead of Zach Henson. But at the rate that Kyle is closing, it may not matter. Last time by, Mark Dantuma and Zach Henson had identical laps, 31.45. And last time by, Kyle Holden ran a 30.92. Mark Nelson has made his way up to fourth. Richie Joplin now back up into fifth, closing on Nelson. Paulo Anacito back in sixth. And Paulo is faster than the entire top five at the moment, as Kyle Holden has just taken second. Kyle now just 2.8 seconds behind the leader, and 20 laps to go. Last time by, Kyle Holden was 3/4 of a second faster than Mark Dantuma. With 19 laps to go, I do not see Holden's tires equalizing with Mark's before he gets to him. And he is closing rapidly. Mark Dantuma also currently the biggest mover, up 12 spots into the lead. Gerald Poole up 5 spots into 9th. Ray Hillhouse up 4 spots into 8th. Zach Henson up 3 spots into 3rd. Kyle Holden up 2 spots into 2nd. Oh, and Kyle Holden now just 1.5 seconds behind the leader. Richie Joplin, Mark Nelson have been trading spots. They're about to take 3rd away from Henson. Richie goes by. And Mark Nelson now underneath. Mark down to the bottom in 1 and 2. He moves into 4th. Kyle Holden less than a second behind Dantuma. Blake Viken on the freshest tires on track is the fastest car on track at the moment. But he is still 28 seconds behind 10th place Ryan Warp. As Kyle Holden has caught Dan Tuma, he's got to run up top. And out of turn 2, Kyle Holden reclaims the lead with 14 to go. Richie Joplin, Mark Nelson, about 1.3 seconds behind Dan Tuma and gaining. Paulo Anacito now up into 5th, having just come by Zach Henson. Kyle Holden with fresh air out front is going even faster. He's already opened up a 9/10 of a second lead on Dan Tuma, and it continues to grow. Richie Joplin now less than half a second behind Dan Tuma. Mark Nelson about a half second back from Richie. Paulo Anacito just about 2.2 seconds behind Mark Nelson and Richie Joplin, but at the moment he is not gaining any ground on the top 4. Richie goes by Dan Tuma to take second place. Mark Nelson now right on Dan Tuma's bumper, looking for third. And remember, those are the two front runners in the championship. Mark Nelson moves into third. And by putting Dan Tuma in his mirror, he extends his points lead even further. Paulo Anacito back in 5th is starting to gain ground on Dan Tuma in 4th. He's about 2 1/4 seconds back. Zach Henson currently in 6th. As we've got a battle for second. 8 laps to go. Mark Nelson now in 2nd. He's about 2 1/4 seconds behind Kyle Holden. Can he get there? Gerald Poole now up into 8th. Ray Hillhouse into 9th. Zach Henson still holds on to 6th place where he started. Hillhouse in 7th is closing, but 7 seconds back. With 7 to go, he is not going fast enough to get there. Gerald Poole in 8th, about 2.1 seconds behind Hillhouse. At the moment, he's about a 1/4 second a lap faster. Mark Nelson still about 2.2 seconds behind Holden. He's gaining a little bit, but the difference is measured in hundredths of a second. 5 laps to go at Kansas. Kyle Holden came in tonight 6th in points, despite having only run 8 of the 12 races so far this season. Kyle still has a 50% win average, having won 4 races so far this season. And it's looking like tonight will be his 5th win. Mark Nelson still about 2.2 seconds back. Richie Joplin in 3rd, Dan Tuma in 4th, Paul Anacito in 5th, 1.1 seconds back. He is closing rapidly on Dan Tuma. Does he have enough time left? Three laps to go for Kyle Holden. Gerald Poole was gaining on 7th place Hillhouse, but does seems to have lost some momentum. 2 laps to go for Holden. Nelson is starting to lose ground to the leader. He will not be able to catch him unless something catastrophic happens. Richie Joplin in 3rd, Dan Tuma in 4th, but Paulo has caught Mark Dan Tuma. And here we go, white flag flies. One more time around for Kyle Holden. Kyle started in 4th, lost ground early, took an oddball pit strategy at the first caution, dropped back outside the top 10 and fought his way back the whole race, taking the lead, checking out, and out of turn 4, Holden will get his 5th win of the season at Kansas. Mark Nelson comes home in 2nd, Richie Joplin in 3rd, and Dan Tuma manages to hold off Paul Anacito for 4th. Let's talk to our top 3, starting with Richie. Richie, congratulations, another podium finish, and man, it looked like you had the speed at times, but looked like the long run was killing you.
Yeah, I burned it up at the end, trying to go up there and be gun-ho and just run the car like crazy. But I take a 3rd place after my start of the race. I mean, I got hit, saved it, and then I don't know what happened there. At that one wreck caution, but it's all good. I take a 3rd place. Got the race with Kyle, Mark, and the other Mark and Blake, so I'm good.
Well, man, great job and a great podium. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you, Doug.
Now, will we see Richie Joplin in a few moments at Darlington? We're going to have to wait and see. Let's talk to 2nd place, Mark Nelson. Mark, you come home in 2nd. I think I have to wonder if you had more laps. Did you have anything for Kyle?
Probably not. I was maintaining, if anything. He just found something there at the second half of the race that was helping him on the short run and the long run, and I was too far back after the caution restart to really get ahead of him and make anything of it. So that's pretty much like a win to me. I finished second him so many times, I just got to take it as a win.
Well, I have to say, it does extend your points lead a little bit over Mark, and you continue to march away with this season.
Yeah, the points so far. I would like to try to get a win though before the season's out. It kind of weird when you win the regular season championship and maybe even the playoffs and you never won a race. So I really would like to get at least one.
Well,
One of these weeks maybe.
we can start calling you Matt Kenseth, but still an awesome run tonight and a great season so far. Congratulations, buddy.
Thanks, Doug.
And finally, our winner for the 5th time this season, Kyle Holden. Kyle, your 5th win of the season, and I have to say, anybody with a 50% win average, that's a pretty good number.
Yeah, no, we were struggling at first. Kansas is not one of my good tracks, and the grip kind of came up, and then I noticed the top lane just seemed like it started to slow down, which normally it's the one that speeds up. But I think too many people were driving up there, and so I just started running the bottom, and we were flying.
Well, you definitely were. Didn't see many folks down there on the bottom either, so that really benefited you having some cleaner track when you needed to make a move.
Yeah, definitely. Clean air is king, always. So get that clean air when you can, especially in the corners. Just don't ever ride behind someone. Always get some air on that splitter.
Well, man, it was another awesome win. A big, pretty decent gap there at almost 2.5 seconds. 5th win of the season, buddy. Congratulations.
Appreciate that.
Kyle Holden pulls off the win at Kansas. But, folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few moments from Darlington. Boy, that's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. Stick around, everybody. We'll be back in just a moment.